All right, guys, welcome to my TYRO 79S ready to fly review. This little quad is pretty awesome. Why? Because not only does it fly good, it's already bound up with this Light 2 radio back here, which is strikingly similar to Beta FPV's radio. Whether they struck a bargain with Beta FPV, I don't know, or they cloned it, but there it is. It looks very much like the Beta FPV 2 radio. We all know it. I have flown it. I own a copy of one, but here it is already bound up with an XM Plus Tyrannus style receiver. So this receiver will get you guys out there a mile or so. I have range tested these receivers and they are much better than some of the cheaper ones that come along that are built into the flight controller. So hopefully you understand a little bit of what I'm talking about there with receiver and range on these FPV race drones. They don't go quite as far out as the DJI style drones. You don't get 4 to 6 miles out with these drones. They are closer proximity style drones. However, it does come with a VTX on here. That is the video transmitter. That is 200 milliwatt. It will get you out there a mile or more. I have tested 200 milliwatt out past 2 miles before. So there are also claims that people on 25 milliwatt, which is the bare minimum for FPV racing, can get out there in outwards of a mile or more. So some people swear by it, but you don't have to worry about this too much because you're going to be flying this quad fairly close in. You're not going to go whale watching, so to speak, way out over the ocean with this type of quad. This type of quad is more fun down low, fast in the trees and around your local park or baseball field. It is quiet enough to fly around people to where it doesn't bother them. It is not a super loud quad. When you get up into the 5-inch range, the 5-inch category race drones, they are quite loud and they have a really loud punch out. That means hit full throttle. This quad has 3-inch props on here. It does have a unibody style frame. It has a bottom mount battery, which you want to put a little piece of Velcro on the very bottom of this quad to keep these screws from rubbing through your battery while you're flying. It could cause the battery to short out and it could cause your quad to catch on fire. So very important that you put a piece of Velcro over top of these exposed screws. They are not recessed screws, which I would kind of like to see in this design, but it's cheapening up the frame design if they do it this way. Now, each motor on here is a 1607 2800 kV motor, which is a pretty good size for something like this little 3-inch. This does have a 20 by 20 stack on here, meaning 20 millimeter by 20 millimeter flight controller. Very, very tiny little flight controller. And it does have 4 ESCs that are built into one board. This is a 20 amp ESC configuration. So each ESC controlling each motor on here is 20 amp, which allows you to fly a 3S battery that comes along with it or a 4S battery of choice. Now, my choice, I'm gonna show you, recommend which battery to use in this video. The 3S 650 milliamp battery that came along with it seemed to not perform quite as well as I was expecting, but I did get around 4.5 minutes flight time out of a 650 milliamp. Now, I'm gonna recommend that you upgrade your strap, meaning buy a little bit longer strap. You can buy some straps on Amazon. You'll need the thinner style strap like this that goes through. It's about, it's not even a 1/2 inch thick, but the larger, longer strap will allow you to put an 850 milliamp battery on this quad, and this will get you close to 6 minutes flight time. So the all line is the one that I'm going to recommend, and that does have a little XT30 connector on here which matches this quad, so you will need that to get in upwards of 6-minute flights. If you're tame and you're just flying kind of slow and you're not doing crazy freestyle, meaning a lot of tricks and big punch outs, this battery will definitely get you to 6 to 7 minutes. Now, the nice thing about this frame, it already has, I believe, 4 or 5 5-star reviews on the Banggood website, which is pretty good because guys are already flying this and having fun with it. Now, the other thing about this particular frame is it does have the F411 flight controller. We talked about that before. It is a 20 by 20. It has a little USB port on the side right here, which you can connect to Betaflight. You can download Betaflight. It's open source software. It allows you to change the on-screen configuration, move things around on the screen. You can actually click on something and drag it around the screen, which is really nice. It will show you your battery voltage on here, and it'll also show you per cell. You can change the on-screen telemetry to show you per cell of your battery, which is really nice for battery health. I typically don't fly a 4S battery down past 13.8 volts. Just for the beginner guys out there. If you get your 3S battery down past, say, 10.8 volts, you're gonna start to damage this battery. So as you're flying along, you'll notice that when you bump the throttle, the voltage will go way down, but then when you level off, it'll come back up to a kind of a flying type of voltage. So be careful on those big high throttle punch outs. You will make your battery sag momentarily, but it will come back up. But again, try not to fly your quad past the 4 to 5 minute time range on these type of batteries. Now, I'm also going to recommend some different props for this particular drone. You see that it does come with 30-40 Race Star props, and these props are just a little more aggressive with the width. So what we want on a race quad is we want a little more of a narrow tip, and these are the HQ 3x3s, and I'll try to put some links down below for these, but they have a much less aggressive width all the way down the center of the cord of the prop, and it has a little less pitch on these props. So a little less pitch is going to draw less amps from your battery and get you a little bit longer flight time. Now also in the box you do get a simple charger. This is the B3 Pro charger, and it plugs into the wall. It comes with this AC cord, just plugs in the back like this, and you're going to plug in your 3S battery port right to this part right here, and you will see that your battery starts charging all the way across. It'll show you the cells, and it'll go green when this battery is done charging. This battery charges in about 20 to 25 minutes time. And I think my favorite part about this quad is that it does come with this transmitter, which is basically the same as the Beta FPV transmitter, which I mentioned before. It has a power button in the very center, throttle on the left right here. This is a mode 2 transmitter. Depending where you live around the world, you can get a mode 1, which will be throttle on the right hand side. But most Americans fly throttle on the left right here. You have yaw, your pitch, and your roll axis right here. You also have two position switches on the very back right here, and you have three position switches. So the SB switch, one switch up is going to be arm, and that's going to spin the motors. You'll notice that the motors spin when you engage this motor arm button right here, and that's important because what it does is it comes set up with air mode and a dedicated all the time low throttle. If your quad stops moving completely, if these props stop moving mid-air, the quad will tumble out of the air. So what they've done in beta flight is they've allowed air mode to be able to have a low throttle, say 10% or 5% throttle, just enough throttle to keep your quad moving in the same direction when you get your throttle at the lowest position. This is very important for FPV race quads so that we don't get that tumble to the ground and crash. Now the quad also does come set up with multiple different flight modes. As you start this quad up, you want to have all the switches facing away from you, meaning push all the way out this way. When you arm, you're going to bring the SB switch up to the middle position, and then you have your mode switch on the other side. You're going to switch into different modes, and the thing is, what you have to watch out for is flipping into Acro Mode. So it will come set up in stability mode, which you can fly around straight. It will keep the quad level, but what you have to remember is that it will not keep its position. It does not have altitude hold or position hold. So it will fly in a straight line, but you will have to guide it with the sticks. And you also have to use the yaw, pitch, and roll axis and the throttle to maintain a proper level altitude while you're flying this quad. But it is extremely easy to fly in stability mode, and that's what most beginners start out with, and then they move to horizon mode, which you can also add on this quad, and then finally the holy grail of FPV, which is acro. That's no stabilization, allow you to do flips and rolls, and you're gonna have to learn how to keep the quad level, and after you do a roll or a flip, you're gonna have to learn how to bring it back to level and continue flying without crashing. When you do flip into acro mode for the first time, most people pitch down really quick, and that causes the quad to fly into the ground. I have seen numerous beginners flip into acro mode from stability mode for the first time, having no stabilization, and immediately crash. And that might happen to you, but this frame is fairly durable. It is all carbon fiber. It has that nice aluminum frame around the top and carbon sidewalls. So if you do break this, you can get parts for it, which is nice. So this is hobby grade type of RC aircraft. Hobby grade, meaning you can get parts. But let's go ahead outside now and let's do a flight test with the TYRO 79S, and let me show you how it flies in an amazing location in northern Washington. Here we go, guys. Okay guys, now time for the FPV flight test. Let's get this little quad out in the air, and I have to tell you, where I'm flying right here is not a beginner spot. This is kind of a place where if you crash down the side of this cliff, it could go in the water, or any flying over water is always kind of risky. So you're always kind of risking fail-safe with these type of drones, and by fail-safe I mean losing connection to your radio. If you go behind a solid object like a concrete building or any type of metal water tower, sometimes you can lose, like momentarily, your receiver connection to the radio. So it'll drop to the ground. These quads are set up to drop to the ground, so just be careful there. And let's talk about the quad's performance. It seems to be able to handle freestyle, and that first part of this video you saw me flying in stability mode, meaning that I have total stability, and if I let go of the sticks, the quad will go back to level. That's the mode that you're going to start out in. Now right here I'm flying in Acro Mode, just to kind of give you an idea of how maneuverable this quad is. It will do flips, rolls, and all of the different freestyle tricks that even some of the expert style FPV pilots do. So it is very capable, and the tune feels a little bit loose on here. You could probably even kind of tighten it up a little bit. You could make it a little less flippy dippy, so to speak, but it does track pretty well. So by track I mean how it flies along in a straight line and continues out to another type of line. And transitions are really nice with the quad as well. But it flies great. It flies really straight, and it flies really nice and true. I'm able to get in there around these cliffs and feel comfortable with this type of beginner drone, which is fairly rare out there. There's not a lot of drones out there that come out of the box with the transmitters set up ready to fly FPV that I would have this much confidence in. So I feel like the motors on here are good. The power system, 1607 motors, seem to have a good punch out. I'm able to do a nice high punch out and go straight up, and I have plenty of power for freestyle maneuvers. As you're growing and learning FPV, start out, and these motors on 3S power, it's gonna be pretty mild. I always tell people to start out on the 3S battery. That's the two that are included with it. And it's cool that Eachine kind of included 3S batteries to start with, and then you can upgrade to 4S later as you get to be more of an advanced pilot. That's what most of us are flying, is 4S and even 6S style quads as well. And those get into super high powered quads, a little bit longer flight time. But the TYRO 79S, you can see the on-screen telemetry down at the bottom of the screen. You see the name of the quad, the fly minutes, and that's from the time I left the ground. And on the left-hand bottom corner of the screen, you see that top number there is the VTX number. It's on F1. It's on the first power mode, which is probably 25 milliwatt. You can go up to 200 setting as well. You'll get a little bit longer and better penetration for your video when you kind of duck behind trees like this. So you have the video just kind of momentarily just give me a little bit of static TV noise there, but it comes right back when I get pure line of sight. So video transmitter is actually working pretty well, which I'm happy about. Now the next number underneath there is 14.4 volt. That's the total battery voltage, and below that it's giving me my cell voltage, my average cell voltage per cell on this 4S battery. And we're flying 4S right now, so you see 14.3, and I'll fly it down all the way down to like 13.8, and then I'll set it down. But I'm already at 4 minutes flight time on this 850 battery, so I believe I can creep up into the 5 to 6 minute flight time with this. And if I hadn't been doing so much throttle punch out, I probably could get 7 to 7.5 minutes, I think, with an 850. But again, you guys will need to upgrade the battery strap, a little longer strap to accommodate the 850. I believe the stock strap will accommodate a 650, so that's going to be totally up to you what you decide to fly. But when you fly behind trees and things like that, this is what you can expect. You can expect that the video is going to break up. Now, One thing I did notice about the cameras, when you're pointing the camera into the sun, everything kind of goes dark on this camera, and once you come around back to the other direction where the sunlight's pointed, slightly overcast today, but it does have that characteristic. I also noticed that the OSD was kind of blurring out. You see that blurring effect there? I'm not sure what that is, so I might want to check my power cables, but it seems to be having some kind of interference to the OSD. And now it's completely back to normal. But you do see it from time to time. And watch out for the trees. But then again, the cool thing about this is a lot of times when you crash these quads, you pick it up, you look at it, you barely even have a bent prop. And that's the greatest thing about flying FPV, I think, is that these quads are ultra durable and they can handle some beginner crashes. And they're also fun to fly and pretty easy to rebuild if you need to do a repair. Let's go ahead and give some final thoughts, guys. Go back to the studio. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome back from that amazing flight test. So let's give some final thoughts and opinion on this Eachine TYRO 79S kit. I think this is kind of like what they should have done probably a year ago for you guys. I mean, this is already built. You don't have to hook it up to your computer. You don't have to get right into beta flight right away. And it's the size that I would recommend first for starting out in FPV. I get tons of emails all week long to the Drone Camps channel, people asking me, Justin, which FPV race drone should I start out with? Should I buy a 5-inch? And most of the time I tell people to buy a 3-inch. So it's fantastic that they came out with a TYRO series ready to fly bundle. I think that's awesome. I will also try to put some budget goggles down below for you guys, and look in the links down below to find budget goggles, also my recommended batteries and the props that I'm gonna recommend for this. Props make all the difference when you're flying an FPV race quad. I have seen really bad props put on pretty decent quads and they fly terrible. And then you put a really nice prop on there and it changes everything. It gets rid of a lot of the stutter and the vibration. It's amazing how much better tune feels when you add a good prop on a quad. So it's kind of, prop is everything on FPV race drones, and it makes a huge difference. And again, these props are a little bit bullnosed for my taste, so I would recommend something with a little nicer taper on the end and a little less pitch, a little less aggressive pitch. So the good thing also about this kit is that the Light 2 radio, very comfortable in my hands. It felt like a regular size transmitter with these larger gimbals on here. And yes, they are called gimbals, guys, not just DJI drones with motorized gimbals, but these are stick gimbals. In our hobby, that's what these are called. It also has its own little battery inside, and you can charge it from a USB port on the bottom there. So get your Android cable and charge this up from the wall, and it will go green when you're all done and ready to go. So I got an entire day's flying out of this transmitter with this quad for most of the day with some other demos that I was working on, but performed very well. And I think it will probably be a really good seller because it already has 4 or 5-star reviews on the Banggood website. And I'll try to put a link down below to this kit for you and the rest of the stuff that I'm going to recommend for it. So I think this one's going to be an easy sell, and you don't have to do any building on this, which is fantastic. It's awesome. Charge up the battery with the included battery charger in about 25 minutes time, and you're going to be out flying this quad. So if you need any more help, please do subscribe on my channel, because I have absolutely helped millions of people get into FPV drones and FPV racing around the world. So I'm Justin Davis, guys. Take care, and thank God the TYRO 79S is out, ready to fly for you to your door. All right, guys, take care. I'll see you on the next one.